Is existence serious? What does that mean? It means, am I in danger of not continuing to survive? The question is, ought I to continue to survive? In other words, must I survive? If life is serious, then of course I must survive. If it is not serious, it really doesn't matter whether I do or I don't. In Western culture, it is practically a basic assumption that existence is serious. This is particularly true among people who call themselves existentialists. When they talk about a person who exists authentically, they mean that he takes his life seriously and other people's lives seriously. But the poet and essayist G.K. Chesterton once observed that the angels fly because they take themselves lightly. And if I may venture into mythology, if the angels take themselves lightly, how much more so the Lord of the angels? But you see, we have been brought up in a mythological context where the Lord God definitely does take himself seriously and is indeed the serious person. So that when we go into church, laughter is discouraged in the same way as it's discouraged in court. This is a serious matter, and everybody has to have the right expression on their faces. Because this is the great, great authority figure. This is Grandpa. This is all you kids, you know. And we don't realize that he has a twinkle in his eye. Now, therefore, you see, the mythologies under which the West has developed its culture are, first of all, the first great mythology is that the universe is an expression of the very, very serious purpose of the Lord God. Rather uncomfortable mythology, as a matter of fact, and people couldn't stand it. Imagine, you're being watched all the time by your Creator, who loves you dearly, but in the spirit of this is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you, and who you never escape from his judgment. You get the idea, lots of preachers emphasize this, you're under judgment the whole time, and that this goes into modern existentialist theory, that the human being, to be authentically human, has to have ontological guilt. But that's awful, you know, to be watched all the time. I know a very humorous convert to Catholicism, and she's got in her toilet, an old-fashioned toilet, you know, with a tank and a pipe going down to the john. And on this pipe, she has a little notice. It shows an eye. And underneath in Gothic lettering, it says, "Thou, God, seest me." Well, you know, it just became too much, so that at the end of the 18th century, roughly, the fashion began to change, and we developed a new mythology. And this one says the universe is not intelligent at all. It has no presiding mind over it. It's simply mechanism. And the fact that there is intelligence in it at all is due to a fluke. Human beings just happen to evolve in the process of natural selection. And it's a pity in a way, because you're something like a mouse caught in a cotton gin. And if you're going to make your life comfortable, you've got to fight the universe and make it submit to your own peculiar purposes. But you're a foreigner in it. Even though you evolved out of it, you're a fluke. Because the thing is actually witless. It's the product of blind energies. And you see how this reflected itself in the various philosophies of the 19th century that constitute the common sense of most intelligent people in the 20th. When Freud described the nature of the unconscious, he gave it the name libido. And now, that was just name-calling. Libido meant something lusty, brutish, definitely unintelligent. And the process of psychotherapy, from that point of view, is very largely saying, now, in the past times, you tried to train your animal and absurd urges by whipping it. In the new days, we are not going to do that. We are going to give it lumps of sugar instead, because we realize that the energies of the unconscious can't just be repressed. They have to be respected but canalized in a constructive way. So somehow some sort of compromise can be made between the pleasure principle and the reality principle. But you see, this was using a metaphor. Freud used these two metaphors. One, that the unconscious is the horse and the ego is the rider. The other is that the psychological construction of man is a system of hydraulics, damming up, repressing, or letting the flow of free association come out. All these are hydraulic metaphors. And we have no evidence that the human psyche or the human nervous system is a hydraulic system. But I mean, these metaphors, we have to use them, because metaphors or myths are our tools for making sense of the world. Only just so long as we realize what we're doing and don't take them too seriously.